I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. You're watching an entertainment video, which you may or may not be entertained by. With that disclaimer out of the way, watch the video and enjoy your stay. Hello again. It is very cold today. At least where I am, this is construed as cold. So I live in Texas, which is known for its heat. And today it's 59 degrees and cloudy outside. And it's right, what time is it? 1:30 p.m. It's only 59 degrees out. I grew up in Cleveland. I'm used to the snow. I'm used to clouds. That's why I moved away. With that being said, let's get into it. Where's my marker? Here it is. There's a wonderful video out there. I'll have the link below. He cites my method. He calls it the roller pigeons method. And his name is Market Moves, Mr. Market Moves. And he does a wonderful job at putting my stream of consciousness ramblings in a linear and cohesive fashion. It's an excellent job of that. Kudos to him. Check him out. So, in his video, he cites there's like a 25 to 30 year plan. Let me try and edit this. Pull up. There's the Shell asset. Looking at the Shell, well, it was the Shell asset. Now it's the Conoco Phillips asset, the Conoco Phillips asset. Pulling it up. In their presentation, they talk about how this is a 10-year plan. It's a 10-year plan. And what they expect and what their cash flows are projected to be. And they give a couple of floating numbers. And then they give a couple of, solid numbers. And they base these numbers on previous years. They base them on the 2020 average price of oil, which is only $50 a barrel. Of course, oil is much higher than that. It's 80 something now a barrel. They base it on 50. With 60 to the upside, going to 60 to the upside. So they're being very conservative. Now, they paid for this for a headline price of $9.5 billion. It doesn't come with just the oil. It comes with rigs, to which I don't know how many. We can sort of guesstimate it. And it comes with, and I'll cite the article. There's a few articles. It was a general release, AP release. Comes with 600 miles of piping. Is this oil pipe, natural gas pipe? I have no idea. This is the expensive one, piping. If you look it up to install oil piping, like for oil fields, it's $5.4 million per mile to install oil field pipe. Okay, and they have 600 miles of it. New, freshly installed, it would be $3 billion. Over $3 billion. Luckily, this is used, and oil stuff depreciates very, very quickly. It's a 7-year schedule. You can depreciate to 0. There's no salvageable value on this. This is 0. In my last video, not my last video. Oh my, sorry for this. I have cool skin tone, I have dark hair, I'm wearing this. Usually I'm wearing a brighter shirt. So my camera is set up for like me is bright, not me is like wearing all dark. And the lovely Mr. Market Moves, his video, he puts it on a 25 to 30 year plan. He uses the formula, and he says that there is, I'm trying to, it's top of my head, 1.3 billion to 1.8 billion. That's pretty close. I want to say that's not too far off. That's pretty close. So we're going to go through some numbers today. Looking at the graphs and what we know, what do we know? We know that the company plans by next year to be producing, and he cites this too, he's seen the documents, about 200,000 barrels of oil a day. 200, that's 1 MBBLDO. Okay, 200,000 barrels of oil a day. And their main schedule is 10 years. Now, they plan on producing this straight through those 10 years. The price of oil, if you look at it and read the small little fine print, it's going to go up. And they talk about that. They still keep their numbers like super conservative. Again, I think that's so the tier 1 analysis, the tier 1 analytics companies, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Citi, can never remember. The big 5 can give them increase, give them an upgrade, give them good ratings. Okay. 200,000 a day. They have a 10-year plan in which they say they're going to 3.7x their current. They're going to 3.7x their current headliner price of purchasing this asset, which was $9.5 billion. Okay. We got some numbers now. We can start formulating things. So, 3.7 times 9.5 billion over 10 years. Now, they're not saying that the oil is going to go down at all. They did not say that. So, I think Mr. Market Moves is correct in his guesstimation and his postulate that this is like at least a 20-year plan. I fully support that. It's about a 20-year plan. It might be 25. 20-year plan seems to work with the formula the best. Okay, so, but normally when you drill for oil, like you have so many years, like for like, especially gas, the first year you get 500,000, the next year 250,000, then 125,000 until it's depleted. This they gave no indication of this being 200,000 barrels of oil. Whoop, straight through. They're powering. All right. You multiply the two together, 3.7 times 9.5, you get 35.15 billion. All right. Now, if they base this again, like I said, on $50 a barrel. So you have 35.15 billion, and that's over 10 years. So you divide it by 10, right? And you get 3.5 billion a year in revenue. And then you take that and you divide 3.5 by 365 days a year on average. Okay. Ooh. And then you get this number, 9630. All right. That's price. At that point, that's price per day. Price per day. 9.360. Again, that's in millions. 9 million, 9.6, because that's 365 billion. That's about 9.6 million a day. Divided by 200,000 barrels a day that they're pumping. Price per how many barrels. Daily price per daily amount. You get your price per barrel. Price per barrel, which is $48. That's very close to that 50 number. Very close. Now, if you read the fine print, they do give a very slight, for the first 10 years, like it increases 2% after 3 years or whatever. They give really, really conservative numbers. And then after 10 years, they put it the upside at $10. All right. So, $48 a barrel. We know this to be our correct formula because this pretty much equals out what those numbers are saying. This is pretty close. All right. So, when they closed in September, when they announced the deal, so they took control of the asset in July, and then nobody knew anything. And I said this in my last video. They took control in July, but in August, media was still saying that 3 different companies were inspecting the land and putting in offers to buy. The media didn't even know. This wasn't leaked out. So it gives you good hope for the Torchlight asset and MMTLP. There could be a buyer now. You wouldn't know until it's announced. Nobody knew then. The only people who know right now are the direct parties involved. All right, so at the time in September, mid-September, oil was $70 a barrel. It took a little dip and it was back up. It was at $70 a barrel. So it's gone up crazy past 2 months. Okay. Minus your cost of goods sold. So 70 minus $25. It's going to give you $45 gross. EBITDA. It's going to give you $45. Now, oil in the ground is valuated, according to the Texas A&M model, 12 to 18% of the current nonlinear price, which is $45. And that gives us a range of anywhere from $5.4 to $8.1. You know, 12% of 45 is 5.4, and then 18% of 45 is 8.1. 8.1. Okay. If you multiply, we know that the company is going to keep going 200,000 barrels a day. Okay? 365 days a year over the first 10-year periods. That's like, it's not even going to be depleted yet. Okay? So that's, we're not even at our 50 or, percent LD50 yet. All right. So 200,000. Let's do some math. Times 365. And that's up 73 million. You move 10 years, add another, a couple of zeros, so that's 730 million. Okay, now, nothing's being depleted yet. The numbers that they forecast for about 10 years, it ain't going down. So we can safely assume it's going to be at least 20 years, like Mr. Market Move said. Nothing's being depleted. It might be starting to be depleted by then, and then it goes on to that. So then it could stretch out to 30, keep having that return. Okay. So at least 20 years. So you want to multiply this for 10 years. So 20 years, you're looking at 1.46 billion barrels. That's pretty close to his number. 1.3 billion to 1.8 billion. 25 years, then you're looking at 1.8, like he said. All right. So we have 1.46 billion and 1.8 billion. If you multiply the 12% that I gave you a minute ago, 12% of $45 of your beta, your oil, that gives you anywhere from 7.88 billion to 11.82 billion. This is just the oil. This isn't any of the rigs or 600 miles of pipeline. You're not going to pay new prices, by the way. This is used. You're not going to pay new, and oil stuff depreciates very quickly. It's cheaper to buy used at this point than to make it new, you know. Do you want to get this for free? So that's, you know, not even a current asset. So that's right, you know, the median price would be right in the middle of that. So he's right in his lower cusp is right in there. And it could be anywhere from between these two numbers, the amount of oil. It could be 1.5 billion. I'm not sure. You'd have to look on the geological reports. This is using what we have and trying to figure out what we know. This is quantitative analytics. Quantitative analytics. We're taking the known data sets we have and we're extrapolating that and applying this to some unknown quantity. So, you know, this we have anywhere from 7.88, depending if there's 1.46 billion, 1.8 billion. How does this translate to you if you're an MMTLP holder? Well, we know that there's 3.7 billion barrels of the Oro Grande. There's less infrastructure, but way more oil. So again, this kind of validates, you can use the formula, the roller pigeons method formula that Mr. Market Move so aptly and affectionately calls it, to apply to this scenario. They could have just lowballed and said this is the, you know, and at that point, you know, it's salvage, because if anything's over 7 years in the oil field, it's considered, you know, salvage, which is zero at that point. You can depreciate it to zero in the oil industry. There's no salvageable value on any of the gear, but they'll still salvage it. You can, I live in Texas, you can buy used pipe, oil pipe, to your heart's content. I mean, I buy it for my property. I make a bunch of I make fences, gates. You go to the pipe dealer and you get yourself some pipe. Prices vary depending. You can get reject pipe, new reject pipe, or you can get used clean pipe, which has pitting and stuff in it. You can also get sucker rods, all that stuff. But it's salvaged at zero. That's accounting purposes. Now they'll make money selling it, so they get that depreciation fully, and then they get money selling it. Going back to what I said earlier, when you see an earnings statement on an oil company, and that's unconventional income, by the way, is when they sell their stuff. It's unconventional income. When you look at an earnings statement from an oil company or a natural gas company, and you look at depreciation, it's a big number, and that's like the lion's share of their expenses is depreciation of these rigs, because, you know, a new rig is at least $2.5 million. A pipe is $5.34 million per mile of pipe, and it's a 7-year schedule. It depreciates to big old zero. So let's say that, you know, they bought it at the low side and there's 1.46. And then they're like, okay, well, you have about 100 rigs. So the Oro Grande, the cactus well, the one cactus well at the Oro Grande can produce up to 1,500 barrels a day. So if you use that as an average, okay, on average, these wells are producing 1,500. And that's about what they're at. In the presentation, they talk about that, how it doesn't currently produce 200,000 barrels a day, but that's their hopes within the next year. And so projected. They don't have to do too much work to it to get, they're pretty close to that point. So about 150,000 barrels of oil a day. If they go, so it's, you know, at around 15, it's about 100 rigs. $2 million a rig. $200 million. And then, you know, you have some pipe in there, 600 feet of pipe. That's about $1 billion. So if it's somewhere in this number, you know, it could be built. And it's not raw land. It has pipe on it. It has some rigs developed. But, again, it's less oil than the Oro Grande. And so this sort of solidifies that I'm pretty stoked about that dividend when it sells. And it, you know, don't think it hasn't sold yet. Like I said in my other video, this went, the Conoco Phillips shell went for about, 6 to 10 weeks where nobody knew anything. They already had control of the asset. Conoco Phillips already had control of the asset, and the media was still reporting that companies are looking. Nobody said anything. Shh. Not even the parties who pulled out or didn't get the bid. Shh. Didn't say anything. Mum's the word. NDAs. All right. I just rewatched Mr. Market Mover's video again on the dividend calculation and what his estimation of oil was based on his calculations on the 25-year plan and then the amount of oil they expect to produce. I didn't know if he saw the Conoco Phillips presentation or not. So I want to make a correction here. I'm inserting myself like back in post. Okay, so he estimates anywhere from 1.3 to 1.8 billion barrels. And he is absolutely correct in his estimation. Because in my estimation, I worked it out to be about, with what I knew from the presentation, and then the Conoco Phillips presentation, I listened to it, watched it, read the articles, and then what I knew from that and working out the numbers back on the back of the envelope calculation, whiteboard calculation, and then plugging in the numbers, extrapolating that, I came up with 1.46 billion, which is right in between his numbers. Mr. Market Moves, you're absolutely correct in your postulation, your hypothesis of there being about 1.3 to 1.8 billion barrels. Do the math. We plug it back into my formula, and it kind of works out to what they were going for. And yeah, it might be as high as 1.5. But yeah, it's like right where he is. So he's right. Great job. Okay. Back to the video.